I want to start this video by saying the title is a little bit clickbait. I'm not sitting on the whole like, you have to like this game, you can't hate it, it's brilliant and everything. I do think it's brilliant myself, but I also think there are a lot of things to criticize this game for, and I was kind of on the fence for a while about if I did like the game or not, because I was trying to put all of my feelings actually into words for this video, and I decided just to do kind of a different video to what I normally do, where none of this is scripted. I'm just rambling. I don't have any notes or anything. I'm just gonna have a coffee and just chat about my thoughts on the game and why I think it shouldn't be as hated as it is, but I do understand where some of the hate's coming from. Though I do want to say, if you hate this game because it's got gay characters or trans characters, just click off the video, unsubscribe from my channel. I don't want you around. I think having these characters in this game is very valid, and I think there are very strong reasons for the characters to be gay. Because I mean, it's an apocalypse. No one really is gonna give a shit about sexuality in that kind of situation. I mean, people still do, as what is addressed in the game, where it's like, no matter what situation you're in, people are gonna be annoyed about stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with them. But, you know, that's life, and I'm glad that that does also have a bit of representation in the game with that homophobic guy that uses slurs against them. Also, there are so few, like, I don't know how many characters I can name. It's like less than 5 of video game characters that I feel represented by in terms of sexuality, having like bisexual or lesbian leads. So the fact that we've got one in Ellie and then another in Dina who's not even like a main character. I want to start this by saying, I'm not saying you shouldn't like The Last of Us, or you should like The Last of Us, or your criticism isn't valid or anything, because I think criticism is needed to make something good. Or at least to make something improve in like the next version or the sequel, as in this case. But I think it's a bit weird that people hate the game because Joel died. I can kind of understand hating it because of the way he died, but it was kind of going to be a game where things had to change, otherwise they were just going to be remaking The Last of Us Part 1. And as much as I adored the first game, I don't really think I would have wanted to play just a new version of that exact same story where it's Ellie and Joel fighting through all of this stuff in the world. Like, I'm really glad that they did try something new and they went a new direction. And one of my main things about this game in particular is I think you can hate the narrative choices of a game and still like the game overall. Like, I really like this game, but I don't like how the narrative was done. That is my main criticism of the game, is that I didn't feel any sympathy for Abby, really. Like, I guess I kind of did, but it was because it was so heavily pushed onto me. Like, I didn't see the comparison between Abby and Ellie, and we'll get onto that later in the video. But because I didn't feel for her, I didn't really enjoy playing as her, and it just felt so like I'd just been taken so far out of the game from what I was expecting to be playing, because I thought like, oh, we'll be back to Ellie in a bit. Then half an hour passed, oh, we'll be back to Ellie in a bit. And then I started to get really, really bored. I think like Abby's story was good, but I kind of wish they did it as Abby's story was like The Last of Us 2 and then The Last of Us 3 was back to Ellie, or like it was within the same world, but they did it as its own game and didn't cut between the two. For me, it didn't really work. So I would say I don't really like the narrative choices in the game, but some of the things I do absolutely love about the game is just the visuals. That game is stunning. Like, I took so long to get through any of that game because it was constantly just stop and pause and look at like how pretty everything was. There's a bit where when you climb to the top of the skyscrapers to go across all of the sky bridges, you walk upstairs and there's like a glass pane that has condensation on it, but because it's really cold, the water's kind of frozen. And the way that texture looked, I literally stopped and stared at a glass pane with some water on it for about 2 minutes, just like, holy shit, this game is stunning. The lighting is gorgeous, the motion capture is incredible, the voice acting is great, the acting is so good. I think even though I don't really agree with the comparisons between the characters. I think the characters are very well written and quite well-rounded, interesting characters. Another thing that I really like about this game is the stealth side of things. It was some of the best stealth gameplay I think I've ever played. And it's usually, I quite like stealth things, but then I just kind of kick everything off. Because I get a little bit bored in games where it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna spend half an hour doing this, hiding behind things. But for some reason in The Last of Us 2, just the way rooms were set up and the sound design of it, where you could kind of like hear something, even in my really crappy headphones, I could hear something and know like exactly where it was. That sort of thing was so good to me. And just, it kept me really engrossed in the game the whole time. But yeah, back to the whole Joel thing. So, for me, I kind of get why they killed him off the way they did, because I think it shows that Joel did get comfortable where he was, even though Ellie didn't really agree with him. He knew he'd saved Ellie, he had Ellie, he could protect her, and he could protect everyone in the village, and everyone was there to protect each other. And they kind of made this atmosphere seem like Joel had kind of not gotten lazy, but had gotten comfortable. And then to have that just ripped away straight away with nothing, like no build up. One thing I do wish they did do was something that Jacksepticeye, I think it was, talked about, where they took that museum flashback and put that at the beginning of the game. I think that would have been really good, and although it still would have made Joel's death just be like a life ripped away so quickly, I think it would have worked a lot better in terms of pacing and making people feel like they got that emotional connection to Joel. Because if you just jump into this game and you haven't played the first one, you have no emotional connection to one of the characters that has the biggest death in any game I've ever played, where it's like, he's just ripped away from you and it's so painful and so raw and so brutal. If you haven't played the first one and you have no emotional connection to him, it's just like, okay, so he's dead, who was he? And it doesn't really seem like a major thing until you see how Ellie reacts to it and how Ellie's going through stuff. But if you don't have that connection yourself from playing the first one, I don't really know if you would kind of understand where Ellie's coming from and what she's doing. So one of the things that I do really want to talk about is the comparison between Abby and Ellie. Because for me, that just didn't really work in the way they portrayed it. I get the points they were trying to make about how everyone has kind of done something evil in this world and everyone is killing people off, everyone is disregarding people's lives, everyone is just so determined to get their revenge and fight for what they think is right. But the comparison between what Ellie's fighting for and what Abby's fighting for are two completely it just doesn't work for me. They don't mesh. They're different. Because when Abby kills someone off, she doesn't give a shit, and you can see that. You can see that when she holds a knife to Dina's neck, she's just like, yeah, okay, I'll kill a pregnant woman. I don't care. Whereas when Ellie does it, she does it kind of quickly, and it's just in the moment she's having her life threatened. She does it kind of as self-defense, where she's like, just trying to get to the person that she thinks she needs to get to, which, yeah, it is revenge. So I do get the comparison there, but Ellie's kind of revenge path shows how she is really sympathetic to everyone else, or empathetic, I should say. She feels really bad, and basically, after she kills Mel, she has like a mental breakdown where she has to run back to Dina, and she's like traumatized, and you can see she's traumatized and she's struggling. Whereas when Abby kills people, she doesn't even bat an eye. She's just like, okay, whatever, moving on. Next person. So that comparison there just didn't work for me in this. I kind of think if they were going to go that route, they maybe should have compared Abby with Joel. Because I think, although I love Joel, he's done a lot of very, very fucked up stuff and hasn't really cared about the consequences as much as Ellie does. So I think having that comparison between Abby and Joel would be way more interesting, and seeing how similar they are, rather than Abby and Ellie, who I don't think are very similar characters. I think I would have preferred to see that, because that makes more sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments if you think Abby and Ellie do have similarities in the way they act. But I just think Abby doesn't really have an emotional response when she kills people in the game. She kind of does when you have the flashback to when she kills Joel later on, and you see her kind of struggle with it for a second, but then she moves on. Whereas with Ellie, when she kills Mel, she's really traumatized, and you can see that, and you can see the struggle. So it doesn't really work because their emotional connection is different. Also, I feel like in this game I wasn't really given the chance to connect with Abby before she killed Joel. If I really connected with Abby before seeing that bit, like before knowing that she was the person who killed Joel, then I would care about her a lot more and maybe understand her perspective more. But it was kind of like, hey, you play as Abby for a little bit, then she kills Joel, then you go back to playing as Abby, and it's just like, great, okay, so you've made me not give a shit about this character and guaranteed that I don't like her. Like, in the whole bit where Abby's fighting with Ellie in the theater, I was just like, I hope Ellie kills her. Like, I hope I can get Abby killed, even though I'm playing as Abby and I'm supposed to be trying to kill Ellie. All I wanted was just to be like, yeah, you could just kill off Abby here, like, I guess, like, my criticism of the game is I think everything is there to make a really good game. I just think it's in a really weird order, and it's not the order I would have put it in. But saying that, I like that I don't agree with it. And I know that sounds weird, but I don't want every single game that I sit down to play to be like, oh, it's exactly what I expected, and I'm going from A to B, and it's all what I thought would happen in the game. Because I thought Joel would die in this game, but it's not at all how I thought it would play out. It's not the build-up that I thought it would have. It's not the characters I thought I would be playing. I thought I would just be Ellie for the whole thing, maybe play as Joel a bit. I didn't think I would be playing as the person who kills Joel. And like I say, although I don't like the choices they made, I still like that they tried to do something different, because I don't want to play a game that's just 100% what I expect. I want to be taken out of my comfort zone. I kind of want to disagree with the points that people are making in certain games. Like, I think it's really good that they've made a game that's made me think and kind of, although I disagree with them, I like that I've had to think about my position and think about why I disagree with them and kind of make that argument for myself to say, no, I don't agree with the point they were making. I see the point they were making, but I don't have to agree with it, and I don't have to hate them because I disagree with it. And I think that is something that's a major problem in our society, but hey-ho, we live in a society. But I will say, no matter how awful of a person she's supposed to be in this game, I fucking love Ellie. She will always be one of my favourite characters. She was one of my favourite characters in the first game, and I played that when I was really young, and now playing her again as she's aged and I've aged. It's really cool to love a character that much and to also feel like kind of represented by that character. And it's great that other people have representation in the likes of Dina and Jessie, and I really hope we get to see more of that in games, because it does mean a lot when you get to play as a character that you feel kind of resembles you. And I also love that Abby just pissed people off so much in this game, because she was a very well-built, masculine-looking woman, and everyone was just furious about that. And it's really funny to me that people care so much about the physique of a woman in a game, because yeah, not a lot of women are built like that, but it's an apocalypse where you have to constantly fend for your own survival, and you have to constantly be killing off people and killing off these creatures and trying your best to survive, and you're constantly fighting for your life. Of course people are going to build as much muscle as possible and be as tough and strong as they can be. And Abby has been through extra trauma on top of everything that's happened. Of course she's going to do whatever she can to be as strong as she possibly can. So she's not going to look like what women typically look like. She's not going to look like what men typically look like. She's just going to be at the top form she can be, because she's always going to be working out. She's always going to be doing whatever is best to survive, because she doesn't live in the world we live in currently. Well, I mean, with the pandemic and everything going on, maybe we'll get there. Who knows? I really, really love that Lev is great for trans representation in this game. He's so just like likable and cute and funny, and him just constantly taking the piss out of Abby when they're a pie and everything is really cute. And it's just, I like the bond that they have. So I do like Lev, which makes me care a little bit more about Abby's storyline, but I still don't like Abby, so it's very weird. I think them having Lev have the sort of reaction that he got from his mother when he came out as trans, and having such a disgusted response, and also having Ellie and Dina deal with slurs against them, it is kind of a really good commentary on the way society reacts to things, and no matter how big other problems get, we'll still be divided in this weird thing where people care about other people's genitalia or what genitalia they're into. It's really weird. Stop caring about it. I think as well, as much as I am really attached to these characters, and I do feel like from the first game I knew the characters and everything, it's a bit weird how much control people think they should have over these characters and how much of an attachment and ownership they feel over these characters, because as much as it like kind of sucks, they're not your characters. You didn't write them, you don't know them. They're somebody else's characters, so the decisions they make aren't always going to be what you think they should be. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I say, I don't want to play a game where I'm 100% agreeing with it all the time. I want a game to make me question things and to make me kind of reflect on things and think, and not just be like, aha, I'm just going to play this and I'm going to go here and I'm going to do this thing that I 100% agree with. I like that I disagree with it. And I think you can disagree with the narrative choices of a game and still really enjoy it. So I think that's kind of all of my thoughts on the game. But yeah, I think everyone did an incredible job. The music was great. Oh, I loved the whole flashback scene in the museum with Ellie putting on the little astronaut helmet and sitting in the capsule. I thought that was so cute. And I still really felt the bond between them. And I think the closure did kind of get there at the very end of the game, when you have Joel and Ellie talking about things and Ellie saying that she is going to try and forgive Joel and they're going to work on it. That's another thing that I wish they'd put at the beginning of the game. I do think they have everything in there to make a really, really good game. I just wish, I need someone to do like a cut of it where it's in a better order, because I don't really agree with the order they've put it in, and I just don't think it works for the pacing of things. It feels very choppy to me. It feels kind of like we're in this person's storyline in this time, and now we're in this person's storyline but in this time, and then we're going to cut between the two, and there's flashbacks, and it's just confusing and it takes you out of it. I mean, it's easy to follow, but like it's emotionally confusing. Does that make any sense whatsoever? But overall thoughts, I disagree with the points they were making in the game, but I like that I don't agree with it. I like that they make me question things. I like that it's not 100% what I expected. I like that they tried something new. Voice acting and acting is so good. The lighting is beautiful and the textures are so good. I think I only noticed like a handful of kind of off textures, and for how much time I spent exploring stuff in that game, that's saying a lot. But the game is absolutely stunning. I might do some videos in it at some point and maybe do a playthrough. I don't know if people would want to see that because I have already played through the entire game, but let me know in the comments if that is something you would want to see, because I'll happily play through this whole game again to see kind of how my perspective changes playing it a second time and knowing what to expect. Alice is the best character in the whole game. No arguments allowed. That's one thing I really don't like about the game. Don't ever make me kill dogs in games. That's not fair. Don't do that. Especially not German Shepherds. They're my favourite breed. Don't ever kill them in games. I like that you got to play with Alice, but it was just even more heartbreaking when it was like, oh no, we killed Alice. Great. I love how I get more angry about Alice than I do about Joel. I'm sorry. I do love Joel. I just also love dogs. But let me know your thoughts on The Last of Us 2 in the comments. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Do you kind of get where I'm coming from with this? Or is this just an all over the place video? I'm very sorry if it is. I've just rambled the whole time. Normally I write a script for videos, so this was kind of a new thing because I just had a lot of thoughts and I didn't want to spend time writing a script. I just wanted to talk about my feelings about the game. So this could be completely all over the place and make zero sense. But if it does make sense and you do like it, let me know if you want to see more of these kind of things, because I have plenty of things I could talk about, and you can give me some topics as well. If there are any other games that have this much debate and controversy surrounding them, let me know and I'll see if I can look into that, play them, and talk about those as well. So if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.